Well, thanks guys so much for joining Millennials in Ministry today. I'm so excited to have both of you. By the way, Erica and Stefan say hello. They miss you so much and they miss seeing you at Soul City and everything. But I'm really excited about you guys as a couple because you both have individual dreams that you are supporting one another in. So maybe just first tell the audience what you do and how you support each other as a family.
Yeah, totally. So I am full-time at Soul City Church in Chicago as the visual director. So I lead our photography, film, and graphic design teams. So we get to focus on telling Jesus' story in really cool and authentic ways. And then I have a huge passion for, and my heart is for leading people in worship. And so I also have the opportunity, they let me be there, and I get the opportunity at other churches as well. So that's really like my lifeblood, is being able to lead people in worship. And Jasmine?
Yeah, so I do photography, but I have a huge heart for storytelling and photographing and sharing inspiring stories on my blog. And so we recently rebranded and kind of shifted things a little bit more to sharing more about our family and who we are as we go after our own passions and callings and how we kind of navigate through that together, just because I think Jeremy has this crazy big dream and I have this crazy big dream. And so do those two together while they're so different.
Yeah, that's super cool. And also you guys have 3 children, am I correct?
We do.
Yes.
We have 3 little girls.
Right. So with that, with other families, I feel like sometimes parents think like their children are hindrances to fulfilling their dreams instead of assets to fulfilling them. So any thoughts on that? I know I kind of threw that question on you, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, totally. You know, it's interesting because I would probably say at the very beginning of our marriage, we definitely were in the realm of like, we have kids now. We definitely have everything on pause. Like everything has to be about, you know, focusing in on them. And so that means that what God has called us to do is going to take either a pause or slow down. And I think as we started older and as we started getting older, we realized that our visions and our dreams weren't necessarily just for us. Like it is like Jeremy's dream, and so Jasmine's, and same thing with our kids. Like we stopped looking at it as like, I'm gonna go after my dream and pray that it doesn't hurt my kids. It's more of like, well, how can we all as a family create this entirety of like times where I'm gonna live it out in this way and live it out in that way. And I think one of the most probably real ways that we've seen it happen is our oldest Dakota, like, loves worship, loves singing, so passionate about that. And so here I thought about starting a YouTube channel where I just did worship songs, things that I love. Dakota actually jumped in and, you know, with, she was actually a proponent of it. She said, I want to do a song from The Greatest Showman.
Oh my gosh, I love that video too.
Absolutely. And so that was the very first thing we did together. And I realized like she has this passion within her, and it doesn't have to be an either or, it could really be an and how can we work together? And, you know, of course, that video is the one video that has like 500,000 views.
I know. I saw that the other day. It was like 400,000 views.
Not good enough alone.
You need your daughter. She's the key. She's the secret sauce.
So now everybody's like, you're great. You're awesome. Can we hear more of Dakota?
No, that's really, really cool. And I love that family aspect of you guys. I think that's what makes you guys unique, is that you're so inclusive with your daughters, with your family, and with each other's dreams, very much so, supporting one another. Along with that, I kind of want to ask you, excuse me, Jasmine, I know that you have this dream of creating a space for creatives, a healing creative space to develop their gifts and so forth. So I want to ask you, how did that idea spark? What exactly is that idea, and where did that come from?
So the idea started last May when we had a chance to go to El Salvador together with Soul City Church for the vision trip. And I was just so inspired by the heart of the local community and how they knew the need within their own community. And so it really convicted me when I came back home to kind of assess what are my own community's needs and how can we create some sort of shift within the culture where we live. And so I started doing some research and figuring out through Google searches, like what's going on here. And what I quickly discovered is like the education system is lacking. reading and math proficiencies are really low. Dropout rate is like 40%, 85%
Wow.
of the kids get free lunch. And so there's this aspect of can I thrive when I feel like I'm dumb or I'm not smart? And so my part is how to teach creative skill sets so that these kids can learn something other than academics, like photography, graphic design, macrame, drawing, like doing, wall art and different kinds of things, and teaching them that along with financial literacy and really empowering them to learn a skill set that they can become passionate about and thrive in it and do really well under the right mentorship. So, yeah. Oh.
And Jeremy, what did you think about it when she shared this idea with you? What did you first think? Like, what was your response?
I thought it was a crazy idea. We live in Maywood, Illinois, which is west of the city. It's west of Oak Park, so if anyone's familiar with kind of the neighborhoods, it's widely considered a pretty rough neighborhood in terms of like the housing prices. And we felt about 2 years ago, God really called us to this area. And so when we came here, I think for us, we had the initial thought that it was going to be like, oh, it's an opportunity for us to like live in a cheaper neighborhood where we can actually afford a home. But I think quickly like allowed us to see that it was way more about how we could actually become a part of our neighborhood and not just live in. So we starting to see we were living right across the street from a school, so we would interact with students and they would come through our alley and we'd stop and have conversations. And with creativity being a big part of what we do, we realized that it's one of the few things in the professional realm where you don't necessarily need to have like all of the degrees and you don't need to have certifications. And because it so heavily relies on just your portfolio, we started thinking, well, then that eliminates a huge gap for a lot of people who want to go, for a lot of young people who want to go to school and might not have funds to go to school or the financial support to go to school. And so we were like, let's just create a space where we can actually teach things that kind of close that gap immediately. And really, like, young adults are at the cusp of technology. I'm like, I'm not on Snapchat. With Instagram and Facebook, but these platforms and ways that businesses are connecting. And so we're like, if they're already there, like if the young adults are already there with technology, how can we equip them to actually become an asset in this community? Like we have that like businesses in Maywood would start revitalizing through young adults being the graphic designers, being the photographers, being the people who are doing social media for these businesses, and how crazy it builds from the ground up. So initially I was like, you're crazy. Too much. But then I think Jasmine kept reminding me and reminding us, like, it's not about starting big. Like, it's not about you come in and you start a school and you're at 10,000 students. It's like, she started, teaching photography at Breakthrough Urban Ministries. And so she's like, what if we just got together on a Saturday with 10, 15 young adults and we had all our photographer friends donate cameras and you just taught them photography? Like how can we automatically shift their belief that they could do something that doesn't require 4 years of education or online certifications, or so that's kind of where it started from. And initially I was like, I don't know, but definitely on board and feeling like, this might be why God has instilled in us the ability to know so many different creative things and friends.
That's so cool. And so the dream started with that idea, and now you guys have entered into a new space where that dream can really start to take fruition in the firehouse. So tell us a little bit the story, like how did that come to be? What did God do for you guys?
So as I started like just dreaming with God what this could look like, I just felt like he prompted me to go on the MLS, and that's what I did. And a firehouse popped up in our community, and I was like, holy freak, like could that really happen? But so much fear had kind of just consumed me, and so I just let months and months pass by, until one day I had the courage just to call the owner and say, hey, is it still for sale? And he was like, yeah, it is. And this was last summer, and so I came and checked it out. Later that evening, I don't believe we're not. I'm at the firehouse. You need to come and check it out. And came and saw it too, and we instantly fell in love with it. But I think in that season of life, just with where I was at personally, operating out of my own poverty mindset, that really this actually happened for us. And I just remember Jeremy saying in the car after we saw it, he said, Jasmine, if this is meant to be ours, it will be still available when we're ready. I looked at
Whatever.
I totally was like,
we dismiss each other a ton.
That's hilarious.
I was just like, yeah, whatever. Summer passes by. We're like now in November, and this dream is starting to kind of reignite in me a little bit. And so I inquire again with my realtor, and she confirms that it's under contract and it's supposed to close. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, Lord, like I released the dream, I released this concept to you, and you can still do it and move through it, even if it's not in the firehouse. It can be somewhere completely different within the Maywood community. And so then January, the new year comes around, and I fast every January, and so I'm fasting. And as I'm doing that, I have in our house, we had a prayer room, and so I would have all my prayer petitions taped onto the walls. And on it was the firehouse dream. And as I'm praying about that and reading scripture, it just got so heavy in my heart. And at this point, God is really working with my poverty mindset. And so I invite me in that, hey, I think we're supposed to start looking at this firehouse again. I don't even know if it's available still.
Yeah, it's a year later.
Yeah, I'm like, I think it's old. But this dream in me is so heavy. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. And so for me, I like actual steps. What we actually do. So the first step for me with our mortgage broker and to reach out with our realtor. So I reached out to the realtor to see even if it was available, and called me back immediately. Like, Jasmine, you won't believe it. It's back on the market.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
I told Jeremy, I was like, oh my gosh, the firehouse is available still. And I think we both were like still kind of stunned by it, that I think it took us another month to go back and look at the firehouse for a second time. This time, like this year, 2018, late January, early February. And we come and look at the firehouse, and we fall in love with it again for the second time. We're like, could this really be? And this time we like really have a hands open approach where we're just like, okay, Lord, like if this is really what you have for us, then just direct our paths. And Jeremy kind of was like, he had to kind of get to a place where he was ready to let go of the house. I think we all had to get ready to let go. Yeah. He had just purchased it. We lived in it just a little bit longer than a year before this whole like putting it on the market thing. And we're like, are we like can have the equity in our house to like sell it? I realized
in a year. Again, in a year.
Right.
Yeah, because we had no money. Like we had literally no money to pursue. And we just really felt like God was like, just trust me in the process, and I'm going to provide for you in this and through this. And so we put it on the market 2 days after he accepted our offer. And when the day we put it on the market, we had 2 offers 2 days after that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that really made you feel like, okay, God, this is happening. Like you're with us. You know, we can do this.
All along the way, there were definitely parts where we were kind of like, okay, God, this feels like it's too big. Could you just like make one of the things fall through? Like it was a relief if like fell through, and we could blame that for not necessarily walking in with like full confidence in actually buying it.
Yeah. Well, and actually what happened was the first offer that came in was like this really sweet family. We're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And then the next day we started sharing with everyone that we're under contract. He got a call back from CPD, which is Chicago Police Department. So he the contract because you have to live in Chicago in order to so you cancel the contract. We out. Well, I should say I freak out. I get angry with God, and I'm just like, I can't believe we're back here again. Like, and I so clearly heard his voice and say, Jasmine, don't you think that this is a form of provision for him and his family? And when I heard that, it gave me such a peace and a clarity of understanding that sometimes when things fall through, like it's not necessarily for our betterment, and while it might hurt, it's for someone else and the purpose of someone else. So that's good for me to like experience and to hear. But I think throughout the process, like God was just really bringing healing within myself, and bringing me to a new level of trusting Him. And letting go as well.
That's so good. And so with that, so you see the firehouse and God gives you the firehouse, you know, but even I want to go back to the emotional side of that, because I feel like there's a lot of people that have big God-sized dreams, but have no money, have no way, don't see how it's going to happen. You know, how would you encourage people that have dreams bigger than themselves, you know? Because logistically, even for myself, sometimes I try to figure out a way. I was like, if I do this, then I'll have funding to do this. And I have faith for what I can figure out in my head instead of the unknown. You know what I mean? So how would you encourage people that also have those big dreams that just, you know, no money, nothing, and how do you just surrender it over to God like that?
Yeah, I'd say all things work together for the good of those that love Him. Like at the end of the day, there were so many moments where we had literally sit in saying, like, God, you called us to this. Like, we feel, we believe that. And so if you've called us to this, it would be ridiculous of you to then leave us. Because then every person, every moment, everything that we had like laid in, like eventually this comes back to you. Like God has called us to this, and then for it to fail, it would kind of be like Him working against Himself. You know? I would certainty actually come more from believing that God is actually calling you to something. I think it's way less about like, will it come to pass when He calls me? It's more about recognizing like, is God actually calling me to this? And that doesn't mean that there's going to be uncertainty in the middle of it. That doesn't mean that you're going to feel alone in the middle of it, or you're going to, we absolutely did. I mean, like I said, there were so many times where we were just like, I don't know that this is going to happen. And even to the point of recognizing when we had to buy this place, like we had to give up front the money to the village of what the repair cost. The village doesn't even allow you to sell a building as is. So it's like, there was something where we were like, okay, like it's going to happen. Just creating a way and ways to like be able to escrow money this way and be able to get this way. And so really like it starts with the belief that God is actually calling you to something. And so, and that actually starts with the belief of saying like, it's going out ultimately of God, like in whatever way, shape or form it is. Like there's so many easy ways to actually determine if like what you're going after is really just for you, and not inherently bad. But there's a lot of things that I think we put on God that really are just because we really, really badly want them. And at the end of the day, they're not necessarily like actually moving forward the kingdom. You know, they're not like moving forward like God's purposes in your life. And so it starts there with saying like, am I actually hearing you in this? I am. Like, how do I hunker down? And you know, one thing I'll mention is that when we didn't share the firehouse dream initially, even when we first put in the offer. I think we shared it with like 1 or 2 people. But when we got the first offer at our house, we felt like, oh, this is way more realistic. Let's start sharing it with people. And then when that offer went through, there was such a fear of shame and being like telling people like, oh, if this doesn't go through, now we have to tell people like, this didn't go through, like God didn't do it. And then God invited me personally, this is one of my fears, God invited me into a place where He said, even if it doesn't go through, like even if everything falls apart, if you didn't share it with anybody, you go through all of that pain alone now. Like you actually like, but if you bring people in, if you bring your loved ones in, we didn't put it online, we didn't share it with the Facebook know-it-alls. Like it was like the people who were like in our community, in our family. If you share this and it does go through, like, you have all these people to celebrate with. And if it doesn't go through, you have all these people who get to walk with you in that too. So the ways I would say to continue walking through, whether like your fear about what God is calling you to do is, man, speak it, invite people in, because at the very least, you have people who will sit with you when it gets hard, and you don't go through it alone. And that's like for anything. That's like if you're going to buy a house, if you just got pregnant, if you like, you know, it's like, share because, and share it with the appropriate people, share it with the people who you like on side for your, because then you don't go through things alone, and going through things alone.
And I can think of three things. I think it's three things. I am hugely inspired by, hugely, is that even?
I know.
I am so inspired by hearing other people's stories. So when I listen to podcasts or read blog posts, like, and I'm inspired by how like God did something this amazing through their story, it like helps me out. So I love staying connected in community like that. I really love it. That's one of the ways that I connect with God. Another thing that I can think of is like delay is not denial. And so for us, like, wow, we had so many setbacks. Like, this was not road for us. Like, we started, like, this started all the way back in last May, and we didn't go until June 1st. So throughout the process, like, I'm just reminded that delay is not denial. And in the midst of it, identifying that although God planted this dream deep within me, my identity is not wrapped around whether or not I got the firehouse or not. So I realized at a certain point in this journey that I had wrapped around my identity in the firehouse. So it meant to me that if we got the firehouse, then God is good, and so am I. Really, God needed me to release that mindset. No, regardless of not get the fact I am good and you are good and I love you and all these other things, right? And so and it was when I finally released the outcome of the firehouse is when he gave us the most amazing offer, right? And it's when finally things seems like they were going to actually happen. So that's what I would say. Delays, denial, get in community with other people. I'm also another person that connects with stories in the way that if God did it for them, then he can do it for me too.
Yes.
The persons, right? And so I hold that. Like, I even think like in scripture as well, I'll say, okay, God, like if you are the God who makes covenants, then I'm going to make a covenant with you in this, and I'm going to journey with you in this. And I've seen him move through those types of situations and him just be so faithful in saying, okay, God, you did it for them, you're going to do it for us. And so
if it's God,
awesome.
God still.
Hey. Man. So fast forwarding till now, where are you guys at with the house now, like the renovations and everything? I know you said you had that God moment with God, like, Lord, whether you do it or not, I know I'm still loved and valued by you. And you told me, like, literally 5 minutes after you had that moment in exchange with God, you got the email, right? So talk about that moment and then where you guys are at right now.
Sure. So literally I was wrestling with it. I was like, no, I don't want to release this concept. Like so basically what happened was my therapist was like, I sense like you need to let go of the outcome. And I said, I hear you, but I'm not ready to do that right now. So I came home because I'm a thinker. So I came home and thank God Jeremy gave me the grace and the space to be able to do that. I think what I really needed to do was to grieve the outcome. Whether it was going to happen or not doesn't change the fact that he gave me this dream and that it was still very, that it was still possible. And so I was like, okay, Lord, I feel like I'm ready to let go. Like, I'll let go of my identity issues wrapped around this.
Because we didn't have a contract at that point. We had a contract fail, and I believe we had another contract fail. So we were sitting in, this might actually not happen.
Yeah. And we had, invested so much of our resources, our time. So at this point, we're looking at 5 months of not knowing how to live our lives, how to plan our family, how to do anything. So for me, I needed to just let that go. And I kid you not, when I finally released, when I said, okay, Lord, like, I'm ready to let go, I'm ready to surrender, my hands are open. Not even 5 minutes later, we got an email with a third offer. And it was like, it wasn't a lowball offer. It was like $1,000 over our asking price.
Wow.
I told Jeremy, I was like, I think this is fake.
This can't be real.
Like, they fake. And so we have signed documents. I'm not going to this is the real offer. But it totally was. Just the family God chose for that house was just so even amazing in that. And so I think for us, we're just like, whoa, okay, God, we can trust you through this. You've got our back, and we're just so good. So now we're 5 weeks in of living in the firehouse. I would say 5 weeks. And right now we are just kind of getting unpacked. I felt like walking in. So basically it's 3 floors. The first floor is all commercial space. Then the second floor is like open concept. And then there's a third floor, which has like a half loft and a rooftop deck. So the first floor is really where most of the work needs to get done in order for us to get the building up to code. There's a few, but the majority of it is in the first floor. And so I kind of walked into it like, yes, we're going to like get right into renovations. It's going to be done ASAP. I really God was like, no, like chill out a little bit. Enjoy my goodness. Like let some time pass. We need to start renovations on day 1.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Just enjoy it, you know? And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We're trying to just sit and enjoy it. And I wake up every day and I'm just like, holy cow, Lord, like we did it. We're here. And so in terms of renovations, we've just painted to kind of make it feel a little bit more like our aesthetic. Change the living space, as you can see.
I like those. Jeremy, I was telling your wife earlier, like, I love the stories of, like, before and after, like, fixture change outs and all that. Like, I love it. You do a really good job.
We are committed to doing really awesome stuff on a really tight budget because
I love it.
As much as I love the gains, like, I'm going to spend $2,000 on a light fixture.
Right.
It's a lot.
I can second that.
You know, and if we can just speak into that, I think for us, we do have a strong conviction in terms of how we choose to live our lives simply and intentionally. So even with the renovation process, like, and we like nice things, and we believe in quality products, but at the same time, we want to really challenge ourselves in terms of like all the stuff we think we need to buy, and making sure that it falls in alignment with who we are as a family and with our budget. We never want to go anywhere above our means. And we also want other people see our space. I want them to say, like, I can see myself attaining, like it's attainable. Not for, you know, the elite or anyone like that. And so that's just a really strong conviction that we have. And so, you know, lots of thrifting and lots of clearance sales and all these other
That's cool.
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, we have 2 original fire poles that are still in. That's all I need.
That's it.
That's
it. That's all you need, right?
A fire pole. Are really quick.
That's so cool. So if people want to like stay connected with you guys and your journey of the firehouse, how can they stay connected? How can they support you guys and what you're doing?
Yeah, so follow along at Authentic Adventure Co. on Instagram. We have a highlights where you can kind of see everything in terms of how we're styling and rehabbing it. And then you can also subscribe to our mailing list. And I promise we don't get crazy or send out a ton of
spammers.
Yeah.
The worst you'll get is like an invitation to Six Flags with me. That's
Hey, I'll do it just for that. That's cool. Well, I'm so glad that we got a chance to chat and follow you guys. And Jeremy, also too, tell us how we can follow you with what you're doing with music and with Dominica, your daughter, and everything.
Yeah, totally. So on YouTube, if you look for Jeremy Lopez, you'll see my face, and that's where we put all the live acoustic videos. And then also, if you just follow my music is a part of Authentic Adventure. So
Cool.
website authenticadventure.co. There's a tab of music there, and that'll show where, if I'm playing at other churches or even leading at Soul City or just kind of what I'm doing in the music world, you'll be able to keep track there.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I've loved this chance to hear your story. I know it's going to encourage a lot of people. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much.